All right, here's our first video in section 4.5 on multiplying polynomials. In our last section, remember we did adding and subtracting. And remember when we add and subtract polynomials, anything with exponents, we do nothing with the exponents, which means we're going to distribute to get rid of the parentheses, and then we're just going to combine our like terms, right? In this section, we're going to start talking about multiplying polynomials. And so when we multiply polynomials, we're going to multiply coefficients together, remember the numbers in the front. But then when we have bases that have exponents, when we multiply, remember the rule is that we really add their exponents. So let's do a few examples in this video. Looking at example number 1, it looks like we have two polynomials here. We have a 5x, and remember when the parentheses are right next to each other, it means multiply. So we're going to take this 5x and we're going to multiply it by a 6x. So another way of writing that would be 5x times 6x. Remember, we're going to multiply the coefficients together. So I have a 5 times 6, that gives me 30. And then if I have x times x, they're the same base, so I should be able to combine them by adding their exponents. So my final answer would be 30x squared. Let's look at b. b is a little bit tricky, so you have to be careful. If you look at this first polynomial, there's really a number in front. There's a coefficient there. It just happens to be a -1. So I could really write this as -1a times 3a. I'm going to multiply them together by multiplying their coefficients. So -1 times 3 is -3. And then if I have a times a, I really have a squared. So my final answer would be -3a squared. Let's do a few more. All right, c says that we have this 7x to the 5th times -4x to the 3rd. I'm going to multiply the coefficients, so 7 times -4, -28. And then if I have x to the 5th and I have x to the 3rd and I'm really multiplying, what I really do is I add their exponents together, which gives me x to the 8th. So -28 x to the 8th would be my final answer on that one. All right, d has a couple of different variables, but we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take this polynomial and multiply it with my second polynomial. We're going to take the coefficients and multiply them together. So 2 times -3 is -6. And then I'm going to take all my like bases and combine them. So if I have x to the 3rd times x to the 7th, when I combine them, remember I really add the exponents, so I have x to the 10th. And then I have my y to the 4th times y to the 5th, which really gives me y to the 9th. I have no other like bases, no other like terms, so my final answer would just be -6 x to the 10th, y to the 9th. All right, let's look at example number 2. Example number 2 looks a little bit different because now I have a monomial, one term, but I want to multiply it by a binomial, two terms. All this really means is that I'm going to take this monomial and I'm going to distribute it to everything inside the parentheses. If there is a plus sign, I have a whole bunch of different terms inside. I want to make sure that I distribute it to every term inside, just like if there was a number in front. So if I have x times x, remember, I add the exponents and I really get an x squared. Plus, I have a 3 times x. Well, a 3 times an x can't really be combined because they're not the same bases, so I would just write it as x squared plus 3x. All right, look at b. We're going to do the same thing on this one. We have a monomial here. It's right next to the parentheses, which means we want to make sure that we multiply it through by every term inside the parentheses. So 3 different terms this time. So we have a 5x times a 2x squared. We're going to multiply the coefficients, so 5 times 2 is 10. And then if I have x times x squared, I really have x cubed. Let's do it again to do 3x. If I have a 5x times a 3x, we're going to multiply the coefficients, so 5 times -3 is -15, and x times x is x squared. All right, last term, 5x times 4. 5 times 4 is 20, and then I just have that lonely x. So my final answer would be 10x cubed minus 15x squared plus 20x. No other like terms, so nothing can be combined. That would just be my final answer. All right, last example in this video. We're going to do the same thing here. This one's really similar to the ones we just did. This time, we're just multiplying it to 1, 2, 3, 4 different terms. Here we go. 2x squared times x cubed. There's really an invisible 1 here, so 2 times 1 is 2. X squared times x cubed is really x to the 5th. Remember, when we multiply, we really add the exponents. And I'm going to do that same thing with the next 3 terms. Why don't you pause the video, try it, and see if you get the same thing I do. All right, I got a -14x to the 4th, 2x squared times 10x is really a 20x cubed. And then I have a 2x squared times a negative 4, which is really a negative 8x squared. Don't forget your positive and negative signs. Don't forget your exponents there. I have no other like terms. I'm in standard form, so that's my final answer. Hopefully you got the same thing I did. All right, keep practicing your multiplication of polynomials because we're going to add to it here in the next video.